I would not fear playing North Carolina in the playoffs. You know exactly what they are. They haven't been scoring goals. They maintain possession. But if you're willing to track and check and do all your defensive work, you can keep them in front of you.
Becky Tweed should have this head coaching job at the beginning of next year because she's given this side confidence. She's invested in training. She has made this team holistically so much better. And you see it in how these players kind of fight for each other on the field. I think there's a lot of similarities on the back lines where I could see whichever attack can take advantage of the backlines will probably end up winning this one.
I think that's the key to it. Angel City's been playing in the playoffs for like a month and a half already. Like they have a whole different mentality than everybody else.
Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch, joined as always by Scotty Schweitzer. I'm Anna Witte. We are so excited to be back with you because we had one heck of a Sunday on Decision Day, and we are here to talk all about it. But before we get into the soccer aspect of everything, if there is anybody listening or anybody who knows anybody out there who is a great editor, who knows how to edit podcasts, who knows how to edit videos, who would be interested in working with us, feel free to send me a DM on my personal Instagram, shoot a message on our Twitter, or even make a comment in our YouTube page. I would love to chat with you. So I just wanted to throw that out to anybody who might have that knowledge or that background. So with all that said, Scotty, Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time was crazy. We split it up. So Scotty watched the Orlando-Houston game that ended in an Orlando win 1-0, but they did not make it into the playoffs. Scotty watched Gotham and Kansas City tie 2-2, and then you caught North Carolina beating Washington 1-0. I watched the Angel City crush Portland game 5-1. I watched OL Reign beat Chicago 3-0 and San Diego beat Racing 2-0. There were 17 goals on Decision Day. So it was certainly not boring, but some games were much more interesting than others. So before we head into Friday, here are the standings to wrap up the entire regular season. San Diego were our Shield winners this year. Portland came in second place. The Courage came in third. OL Reign are in fourth place. Angel City bumped up into the playoffs. They ended in fifth place, and Gotham ended in sixth place. Those are the top 6 teams that will be playing from here on out. But the game that Scotty caught, and personally watching just what everyone was saying on Twitter, reading about it, was the North Carolina-Washington game. Everyone saw Trinity Rodman go out with that red card in the 23rd minute, which changed a lot. So, Scotty, what did you see? I know there was a lot to this game. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought the Decision Day kind of went as we thought it might go. The Angel City was obviously a shocking result. Yeah. That one we did not see. A win, yes, but a 5-1 drubbing was different. Orlando, I think, if I was Orlando and I was the coaching staff, I would definitely bring the team in after the game and say, hey, look, the strides we made at the end of the season, we're going to win it next year. So let's do all the right things in the offseason. Let's kind of stick together if we can. Let's do what we have to do this offseason and just build off of what we built, because they really look like a real good team at the end of the year and had come together real nicely, just a little bit too late to make a push into that playoff spot and get into the playoffs. But if they did get in, they would have been a dangerous team. Gotham has some veterans. They do some things good. That game was, I thought they had that game easy, and then they took the foot off the gas and let Kansas City back in it. But that's Kansas City's MO this year, is they never give up on themselves. It's been a tough year for them. And they're another team, Kansas City. I'd say, hey, look, we've had some really good games. We had some bad games, but look what we're building here. I would think with free agency, players are going to want to go and play in their own home, in their own stadium. So I think they'll be able to pick some players up in the offseason and build on what they have built this season. It's another team that looks good going forward. But then the North Carolina and the Washington game. And to me, this was the game of the weekend, because they really had their own fate in their hand, as they didn't need help from anybody. They just needed to do what they needed to do. And, going into it, I was a little nervous for North Carolina. Washington's a good team at home. They play really good at Audi Field. They have all those U.S. national team players with some sprinkled in other national team players. And I think Staub's a great player. But Washington's just somehow they don't click. They haven't clicked all year. They're good. They sit back. They have, Parsons wasn't there, but I don't really think that was that big of a deal. because they look like the exact same team they've looked like for the past 4 or 5 weeks. The red card, though, me personally, if I look at the still frame of it, man, it looks like a brutal tackle. But when you watch it live and then even on video, it was just wrong steps and a tangling up. And then she steps in a really bad spot on O'Sullivan. And I think O'Sullivan's reaction, because it's probably painful as all get out, is also what helps the referee or the VAR go to it and look at it again. I personally thought it was a yellow and nothing more. And then, because you got to understand, in that environment, in that situation, you're red carding their most dynamic player, the player that
Right.
gets them their goals, the player that keeps them in the game. We were talking earlier, if it was a red card and it was pretty much anybody else, you're not too worried about Washington. But that it was Trinity Rodman who can do things on her own and impact a game solely with her own talents. It was such a hard. I mean, you could see it right away. The goal comes right after it.
I was
Their
gonna say it
heads
was
are
still
down.
0-0, right?
Yeah, the body language. I mean, it comes really like right after it. The body language on Washington is they're deflated. They're just like they can't believe it. And then it goes to the 1-0. And listen, in live version of it, it looks offsides to me too. The initial pass through to the Japanese player. I think it's offsides. I don't know because they never show the replay good enough. They never draw the lines. They never show it. There's people, I live in North Carolina, and there's people showing the picture, but they're showing it like from their TV angle, which doesn't give you a straight line across the pitch all the time. So that's a false narrative if I'm looking at some of their pictures. I wanted to see it how it comes straight across. The line can be set. They can set the line on players' shoulders and feet and stuff like that. For me, it's just like, but at the same time, I think North Carolina, based on the season, is the team of the two that's more deserving to go into the playoffs as it is. I would say this. I would not fear playing North Carolina in the playoffs. You know exactly what they are. I don't know how serious the Caroline injury is. I don't know things like that, but they haven't been scoring goals. They maintain possession. But if you're willing to track and check and do all your defensive work, you can keep them in front of you. It's you don't need a lot of goals to beat them. If they score, they normally don't score more than one, so you can get back into the game. I would be a very confident team going into the playoffs if North Carolina was my matchup, even though I think they play the best brand of soccer, but they don't get a lot from it.
Right. Right. I in prepping for this episode and just looking at North Carolina's schedule leading up to this game, it was shocking to like actually realize they had not won a game since they won the Challenge Cup, which was quite a few times ago. Uh, What quite a few times ago, quite a few matches ago. So what do you think had really changed for them leading up into this game that we saw a major dip? And, can they kind of pull themselves out of that? Because if Trinity Rodman had played the rest of that match, it would have been a completely different game for sure.
I agree. I think they're going to get a goal some way, somehow. I
Yeah.
think that's what Trinity Rodman did. Whether
Washington
it's
would have.
Washington would have got a goal somewhere, and then that's going to throw off all the standings and how people got in and what people's points were and what people needed, because goal differential was going to play a big factor in it as decision day was going. Yeah, I like we said earlier, like one of our last shows is when you win a championship inside your season and then still have your season to play for, it's hard to get geared back up. Like, you're already a champion. Like, you don't want to go out there and not try. But I think one of the things is, and I've been on teams like this, they possess the ball really well. Their defensive standings are really good. They do real good about not giving up goals. So when you're not scoring, there becomes a team dissension
Hmm.
in the ranks, and it's defenders are getting upset with offensive players because as a defender, I could stop somebody 99 times and they beat me really bad on one and they get a goal, and it's like I had a bad game. A forward's up there that shoot it 100 times, miss 100 shots, and then shoot one and score, and they're like, oh, got a 9, had a great game. Like, we see it all the time with Alex Morgan. She does nothing to impact the game, and then she scores, and we're like, Alex Morgan's the greatest forward of all time. Where she didn't play well at all during the whole game, but she scored a goal. So that has an effect on players with inside the ranks of the team. We're defending, we're doing this. I could only imagine how O'Sullivan is thinking. She covers so much ground, does so much work for that team. And then we all talk about how good Caroline is and how good the young Japanese player is. All the goal scorers. We always talk about the goal scorers. And players want to be
Mhm.
recognized for how hard they work, the defensive prowess they do, the setting up of plays. And then that builds and starts to aggravate a team. I also think that the North Carolina Courage a lot of times gets the personality from their coach. I don't necessarily think that this team gets its personality from Sean. I think Sean is a good facilitator for this team, but I think the personality comes from players on the team. I think O'Sullivan's a big voice of that team. I think Kurtz is a big voice of that team. And I think those are types of players who are, when you watch them play, you can see they're high intensity players. And they when they're in the middle of the game, they're not always the nicest even to their teammates when they want things taken care of. So I think that could weigh on certain players within this team, because I think Sean's the facilitator of what takes place in the style of play in a sense, but the actual identity of the team I think comes from like O'Sullivan and Kurtz. I think they're their two leaders and they're vocal leaders of this team.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And I've been thinking about this Courage side. And I know there's still, plenty of soccer left to be played this season, but the Courage looking forward, they have that style. Like they figured out that identity underneath Nahas, how he wants them to play. We've seen it be successful. We've seen them try and work out things and put different players in different positions. And really, they worked it out well when they didn't have O'Sullivan and Caroline on the pitch during this World Cup break, which is a huge positive. But to me, that center back role, you bring up Kurtz being a leader, but that is their biggest Achilles heel. So going into the draft, for me, the Courage have to figure out who they're going to put back there and how they're going to make that back line a little bit stronger. And I don't know if it's you take Kurtz off. I'm not sure if it's you take Berkeley off, but to me, those two players are a little too similar and aren't allowing the Courage to like maybe take it over the top, if that makes sense. I know Nahas really loves those two players, but to me, they're just kind of not good enough for the way that they want to play.
Well, with him playing a possessions type soccer, that gives the opportunity for also one of your center backs to step up higher up into the midfield and
Right.
a player. And listen, I know all the stats came out this week, and it has Berkeley like one of the highest rated pass completions. But the biggest name on that list was Ali Long, because she's really been a midfielder all year. Because the other players on it are all outside backs and defenders and center backs. Because we have usually an easy pass, we don't get the pressure that we're normally getting in the midfield or high up the pitch. So what's going on is you get these free passes. Like if they kept the stat, usually the highest ranked passer on the team is the goalie, because we don't pressure the goalie. So they're like almost 100% passer rating. So, but I think with this team and this style of play, you want a center back that is also a center mid that can step up in and then can push O'Sullivan higher, then can push other players higher. And your center back is becoming kind of like how Man City plays. Sean and the Courage like to get their outside backs involved, but they get involved as attackers more than just players that hold the ground and keep the ball and keep facilitating play. And Berkeley and Kurtz, neither one of them are that's not their strong point.
Right.
They're two center back, old school defenders, mark, win headers, win tackles, organize, but they don't step higher up into the midfield and then play as a six role because they have so much possession all game. Like as
Right.
that North Carolina Washington game went on, and it was, they're up a player, it really never changed the dynamic of the game. Me at home sitting here, I just thought, well, Washington's going to really, really struggle to get a goal. It's going to come on a mistake, I think. It's not going to come through the run of play, as they're going to manipulate this defense and this structure and be able to break the Courage down. It's going to come by a mistake. Whereas if Rodman's playing, like, you can't take your eyes off it, because at any moment there's a chance for something happening. But
Yeah.
it never, that wasn't going to be a possibility. And North Carolina kind of seemed content with once they got their goal, is just to sit and do it and play safe. And I understand you're trying to get into the playoffs, but also you're trying to get into a playoffs with a momentum. Like I've been saying it all year. And if they got hot all of a sudden, I think teams are in trouble. But Angel City is good.
Yeah, they are.
And the other thing that's good about them is, like, they can change their starting lineup and it doesn't affect them. But what it does affect is who they bring off the bench. Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't watching that game. I know you were watching it, but I went and checked all the lineups, and I'm like, I always think, why is Endo not in these games? But then, because she can come off the bench, it doesn't affect her. Whereas, listen, we know who we're getting with the courage. We know exactly. The only thing we don't know is if Caroline's hurt or not. And then if she is probably hurt, okay, they're going to take Lucy and put him over on the right where Caroline's been playing the last couple games. And then they're going to put in one of the Danish girls up top. You know exactly that the change is going to make. Wingate's going to come in around the 60th minute. So, you can really game plan
Game
for
plan.
them. Whereas Angel City, you can't game plan for because you only know maybe their back line, and that isn't
Yeah.
even always the same. They're making decisions, which I give her credit. She's making decisions that are hard decisions, changing her goalkeeper, changing her starting center back. She makes decisions and she goes for it.
And before we get into that game, I just wanted to wrap up this North Carolina and Washington game. Obviously, Washington gets kicked out. They're not even making it into the playoffs. And I know Rodman was crying as she came off the field, and I understand the emotions of it all. But it's not, them not making it to the playoffs is not her fault. Like, they should have put themselves in a position to win, lose, tie. It doesn't matter. They're still going forward. So, yeah,
Well,
that
I
is
will say this: it is her fault. It's just not that play that's her fault. It's
sure.
all
Yeah,
they have 5 U.S. national
collectively.
team players, 5 of
I
them.
know.
They have they have Mark Parsons, who he's won at all levels. He's a great coach. There's something going on that there's a disconnect in Washington. Last year, they had all kinds of stuff going on, ownership problems, coaching stuff, all kinds of craziness. So okay, don't even think about this year though. And I understand it was a World Cup, but a lot of teams had World Cup players and have figured out ways to do it. So
Yeah,
that's my thing with Washington is you have way
right.
too much talent to not be making the playoffs. And now is it now we have to do an internal check of, are we playing for ourselves? Are we playing for the club? Are if there's any team I want to play for as an organization, it's Washington. It seems like they have the best owner. It seems like they have the best medical staff. It seems like they have one of the best staffs. They're doing things so much for the game. That's where I want to play. That's
Yeah.
the people I want to be around. And for them not to make the playoffs with all that's put into the club and done for the players is, to me, was I was shocked. I was shocked. And then you get
Disappointing.
your last game to make it in is what do you want? You want to be at home. They get 15,000 people at the game. And granted, the red card to me is a huge mistake. I didn't think it was. I thought it was offsides. I understand all that, but the effort and the energy and the way the game got played out was still not good enough. Was still not good
So, yeah, I agree. And you mentioned the ownership. Like, Michelle Kang's a part of this. Mark Krikorian is their general manager. Mark Parsons knows what it takes to win this league. It is very interesting and kind of odd that
I
they
would say also
landed
April Scott. When I
like
was a
this.
player, if the
Yeah,
medical staff was really
John
good,
Scott.
it was awesome to be there. You're
Yeah,
not worried about having an injury. You know you're going to get the right information and the right medical stuff to get yourself back onto the field and play again. So they have everything. That's so much. It's a great city. It's a great place to play. They do so much for their
great
players.
field,
Yeah, they have.
great
I
stadium.
just I don't understand it. There's something that we don't know. There's a disconnect that we're not privy to as fans. But there's something going on because I don't understand how they don't make the
They don't
playoffs.
win.
They
Yeah,
don't
no,
win.
I
They don't
completely.
play. They're not even. You're not even worried about them in a sense.
No, no, you're really not. And Ashley Hatch, like, I don't think she really did anything that stood out in particular. Ashley Sanchez didn't do anything that stood out in particular. So this Washington team, I think in the offseason, there's going to be a lot of, I think there has to be some changes. There's going to be some draft picks. But also this league is so competitive and we're getting 2 new teams next season. I think there's going to be a shift, and I'm not really sure what that shift will look like within the league when it comes to spreading the wealth of talent and players. With is not only are they having a draft, the expansion draft is going to happen
Right,
this
right.
year
I think
too.
the expansion draft will be probably even not probably bigger than the regular draft because
Totally.
you have coaches uh I'm sorry, it's gonna be hard for me to call him Albertine. I always knew him as Alberto. Montoya, he's coached some of these players. So he's Izzy real close with Sanchez? Does he like that style of play? What's the style of play he's bringing with the players that he's coached? Who does he want to be with him, and who doesn't he want with him? Like, so there's going to be
Right.
some turnover on these teams based on who these coaches are
Yeah.
and their relationships with these players that are already in the league.
Yeah, totally. And before we go forward, North Carolina, they're not this past match, obviously, because it was in Washington, but the match before they had that record-breaking attendance
They had
record. I
15
know
something too.
15,000. You're there. A, were you there? And B, do you think they can withhold that? Like, do you think that's a standard that they can continue to get those kind of fans at that park?
I was not there. I was in Dollywood.
Oh, even better. I've never been. That's on my list.
Is it? It's the Tennessee version of Disney World, is what I took it as. With Dolly
Really?
Parton being like the showcase, kind of like country music. Yeah, it was good. It
She's
was
cool.
yeah, yeah. I didn't mind it. I like beat up in the mountains. That was cool. We were with our family, so that was awesome. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not an amusement park kind of guy. I can't ride roller
Wait,
coasters
there's an
anymore.
amusement park there? I thought it was more of just like a tour of her house and her
Oh,
things.
oh no. Oh, no.
No.
It is it's like you're going to Disney. It's just
Uh,
Dollywood. It's called Dollywood.
really?
Yeah, it's all rides and crappy food and tons of people and it's craziness.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I really have to go. Well, my sister lives so close that I have no reason not to go in the future.
There's some
But,
other good little things around it in the suburbs. Like I did a roller coaster on the mountains, which was pretty cool. That you actually
oh.
control the speed. You're in control.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen those.
So that was good. I can't ride real roller coasters. It gives me like I get a headache, I guess, because of my age or whatever. I used to like roller coasters. Now I can't ride them. I get real dizzy. I get nauseous. But I think part of the reason was it was just like the perfect storm. A lot of teams, youth teams, were at home. It was the last game, or the last home game. I think that fans know there's going to be some changes because of the expansion draft, because you can only protect so many players, so different players. They're having a great run at it this year. The fans have gotten behind the courage as far as so many people doubting them. I mean, it's on every time they do an interview. They all talk about it. Like, we got it. We all doubted you. We thought you were going to be 14th. We got it. You came in third. Yippee ki yay! You know what I mean? Like, enough. Like you can't keep playing just to spite us, the fans, or the people who picked it wrong. Like, you got to actually start playing for yourselves and to win the trophies. But I think it was just a perfect storm, and that they got those 15,000 because the men's team got 6, which is shockingly good for them too, in
Mm,
League One and USL. So I think it was just everybody was local. I think there was a tournament, maybe a local tournament here, so they had the ability to pull from outside of them. But we'll see. I mean, it's all over the stuff here. It's like they're asking everybody to go to the game because they got their playoff game. They have a home seed for it. So, but I
right.
don't know. 15,000 is going to be tough. I think it's just the Canes are back in. There's too much going on right now. NC State football, Duke football is good, Carolina football is really good. State stinks, but we still have a fan
Yeah,
base. So too much stuff is going on. I think it just all worked out. The
yeah.
time, day, everything, the games. I think it all just worked out. I don't personally think they can do it again. I hope they do because it's great for soccer in the area to get that many fans, but I don't see that happening again.
I would agree with that, and I do think obviously it's a great brand of soccer, but to the casual fan, like you look at Angel City and that's hard, you can't really compare it. So let's compare it to Kansas City because you can compare it. Like what Kansas City is able to bring into Children's Mercy Park, and I've been there a few times to call games now, and it's insane. It's unbelievable. They bring in, like rappers who are local, they have an MC, they have fireworks that go off. And with the courage, I think there just needs to be a little bit bigger of a build of the infrastructure, like maybe bringing in people to see not just the players. Like you, at some point, I think they're going to have to start bringing in people who are famous, who can bring an attraction to the local people who want to see them. And then they're starting to become fans of the soccer, because as big as a fan as I am of the league and you are of a league and we are as the game of soccer, like there's still work to be done for soccer here in the States and fans of the sport here in America. I'm not saying it won't get there, but like look what Taylor Swift's done for the NFL. The amount of
Correct.
Swifties who are watching that league is not because, the NFL did anything to get Travis Kelce to be a better player. It's no, they brought in somebody who brings in different attraction. And I think if North Carolina can figure out a way to do something like that, think they can bring in a consistent number of fans, but we'll see. I don't know, but I'm
Yeah,
excited for that one because the Courage will host Gotham
they need to
Sunday,
do that
sorry.
because they I go to games every once in a while, and it seems like to me they only try to trigger like one demographic.
Yeah,
Like
I
where the other
don't
teams
understand
hit
why.
everybody. Like, listen, they did stuff. It's more for the fans, and I went to the first game, and I was like, well, it's just like kiddie bouncy houses. Like, what am I? I don't want to jump on the bouncy house. Like, I don't
Right.
want to do that. And my
You
daughter's
sure?
14. He doesn't want to jump on the back. No, I probably
I
get
think
mad.
you want to. I think you want to.
But like, there's other like I agree. Like, and there's some good local talent musicians that are from North Carolina that their fan base is going to come to see.
Totally.
Basically, to them, a free concert. They just had to pay for this soccer ticket. Which, hey, I'm here. I might as well stay. Blah blah. You know what I mean? I totally
Get
agree.
like Mac Brown. Like UNC's head football coach is such a big star in that area and just like nationally paying attention. Have him come and have him bring a few of his players and say hello to the crowd and put it on social media. I don't like use like both the Carolinas, bring in some Canes players, bring in because Kurtz is such a big Canes fan, have them do some sort of collab. Or, I'm a huge Need to Breathe fan and they're from Seneca, South Carolina. Use that, bring them to the game to put on some sort of a concert. I know they have a huge fan base here in the Carolinas. I'm not their PR person and I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong necessarily, but there's definitely something that I think it's not just bringing in the soccer fan to watch the Denise O'Sullivan. It's bringing in the random 30 somethings who are new to the Carolinas and they need to go see what's happening in the area. And if there's something that they can relate to, then they'll come and they'll be consistent goers and maybe buy season tickets. But um, that's something, maybe a conversation for another day. And we'll see what happens next season. And honestly, we'll see what happens on Sunday against Gotham. So to move on to my set of games, we watched my first game I was watching was the San Diego Beat Racing. Quite frankly, it was relatively uneventful. Racing really didn't really give anything in that game. And I thought it was interesting that Hal didn't start in the match. She was a substitution on. Um, San Diego really dominated. I think Jaden Shaw proved why she should be getting these call-ups to the national team. She had the first goal. I love how Mackenzie Doniak works up there for them. They just have so much talent. And even Alex Morgan, she had the final goal for the San Diego side. I think she's trying to redeem herself off of what happened this summer at the World Cup. And this NWSL season is her time to do so. And it's her town, it's her crowd, and they have the potential to play at home for the rest of the season because that's where the final game is being played this year. So that was kind of boring. I didn't have the sound on that one, quite frankly. And then Chicago played OL Reign. Megan Rapinoe had a brace. And OL Reign ended up beating Chicago 3-0. Chicago has talent, and I think with their new ownership, this is going to be a completely different team next year. They're going to be able to, A, get Mallory Swanson back, and B, bring in new talent to help them in the midfield, to help them in the attack. Because I think on the back line, when you have Tierna Davidson and you have Casey Kruger holding it down, they have the ability to be a good foundation for the Chicago team to build. Chris Petroselli not being the head coach anymore, I'm a little saddened. I really like him. Super nice guy, easy to talk to. I think he was just put in a odd position this year with what he was dealing with from an ownership standpoint and what the Red Stars gave him to deal with. And obviously Mallory Swanson not playing completely throws a wrench in your plans. And then we get Angel City in Portland. And that was the one that I had on the big screen. I had the sound on the entire match because it didn't stop. I mean, M.A. Vignola starting off so strong, getting the first goal for Angel City, 5 goals against Portland. Like Portland looks so uncharacteristic. Really, they took out, I think Angel City did a good job of really going at their back line and making their back line have to play defense, where I don't think throughout the season their opponents made this Portland side have to think much. And they went into Portland games going, they're a good side, we're going to have to play a lot of defense. Where in this one, Angel City was like, no, we're going for it. We're going to win. We're going to get forward. And Claire Emsley starting. I'm a fan of her. I'm glad that Becky Tweed put her back in the starting 11. She was definitely a game changer for them. And what she provides on corner kicks is a lot. And Lebion not getting the start, even though I think the last handful of games she was good as a 9 for them. Putting Sydney Leroux as a starter in this match was smart because I don't think Sydney Leroux is the Leroux of what she used to be. And I don't think she would say the same thing either. I think she definitely sees herself as more of a coming off the bench game changer player. But now, in this game where it was a must win or they weren't going to make the playoffs, having that experience, she knows what it's like to be in these positions, gave Angel City a little bit more confidence on the field. And you could certainly see that. I thought it was really bad transition game from Portland. And I think you got to credit this. Obviously, the players did a great job for Angel City, but Becky Tweed should have this head coaching job at the beginning of next year because she's given this side confidence. She's invested in training. She has made this team holistically so much better. And you see it in how these players kind of fight for each other on the field. Jasmine Spencer having a bigger role once Tweed stepped in. The intensity level is up. And Sydney Leroux's bicycle kick was my goal of Sunday. I mean, that was just so fun to see, kind of random, insane, and in LA, and having the fans experience that on decision day was the cherry on top. But, Portland, they lost the Shield. They had something to play for in this one. It wasn't like San Diego where they really could have just like dropped off, stayed in that second position and solidified the home, field advantage for the playoffs. Like Portland could have won the Shield and they kind of threw it away. So I think they get the bye, but Portland's definitely going to have to do some soul searching before they play in that semifinal match.
I agree. First, I would say this to the NWSL. It's really super cool to win the Shield as a team. And I think certain players and certain coaches, they want to win the championship and go through the playoffs like we do in America, but we're also soccer players. So we know winning the league is what it's like to do, is what it means all across the world, everywhere else. You don't go into a playoffs. You don't win a championship. That's what we do here. And that's super phenomenal to win that too. But to win the Shield, a lot of people think that's the big trophy. That's the big thing. And then to give them that little silver plate that
I know.
like, come on, get us a better trophy than that. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge thing to win the Shield. I'm okay that it's a dish or whatever, but like that thing should be enormous. Like it's hard to win the Shield, to go that long with 12 teams to win the Shield is like crazy. So NWSL, can we please get a better trophy, please? Because that was ridiculous. Like I think you could put an Oreo on that little thing they had.
I know. It's like the size of the Challenge Cup trophy. Like, obviously, the Challenge Cup is kind of cool, but it's 22 games from
Right.
March
It's like
to
what
freaking
we're really
October.
playing for, why we wanted to become professionals. Like this, I want
Yeah,
to play in this league. It's the best league. Let's win the Shield. And like, here's your bottle cap. Like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? I got
I
to put
know.
this in a trophy case. Where? Like, I don't have any.
It's like a Snapple cap. Like, there should
Yeah.
be like a
It should have a
little
little quote, like some
thing
weird
on the
stat
inside.
from NWSL.
Yeah.
Blah 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 has played the most minutes of all time. But I agree. Portland needs a vacation, is what they need altogether. They need to go somewhere and like get their act straightened out. LA came in and said, well, they play like this all the time, but LA showed you if you do not fear Portland and you attack them, that they struggle with it. Most teams are afraid of them, so they sit and they let Portland dictate the play of the game, the tempo of the game. LA doesn't do that. They attack. That's the way they are. That's their style. Tweed coming in, what she has done, because I think we've always had these personalities on LA, is she's organized them. And she's given every personality a purpose, which they hadn't had before. It was just like 10 players going in their own style. And it was fun to watch because there's so many talented players, but she's making decisions that's best for the team. Not always best for an individual player, but she's changed her lineup. She's changed her goalkeeper. She brings in Leroux. Leroux is nowhere near the player she was, but that her mentality is still the exact same as it's always been. She was part of those national teams that like could never lose. They just would never let it happen. So when you start her, you give the confidence. And then when you start her, then you sit somebody else. But like I was watching, I didn't watch that game, but I looked up the lineups and I was like, oh my, look at all these players they can bring off the bench. And they're dangerous. Endo's dangerous off the bench. Endo's dangerous as a starter. Thompson's dangerous off the bench. Thompson's dangerous as so like game planning for LA is so difficult. Where's McCaskill going to be? Is she going to be playing high? Is she going to be playing a little deeper? Is she going to be like freelancing? Like you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. And you're like trying to game plan. If you game plan the wrong one or get your mindset for this, and then it's a little different, like that's a hard thing to adapt to in mid-flow of a game because for a whole week we've been training specifically for this, and then this gets thrown at us. And if you don't switch it over fast enough, it's a dangerous thing. But I agree with you saying all that you said about LA, Angel City, and the Portland. Portland is, I still think, probably the most veteran talented team, but they look like they've lost their way. They've lost their confidence. They've lost their hunger. Like it almost looks like they're waiting for the season to be over. They're just exhausted, and that sometimes happens when you go on such a long run of greatness. It just gets to be exhausting at times, and with the parity in the league, they just might not be able to find their way right now. But that's what I said. I remember I was on a team once, and we were limping into the playoffs, kind of like Portland. We were a high seed. We had a first round bye, but we were limping in like, good God, I can't wait for this season to be over. I hope we win, but this is hard. And we went on a vacation to like West Virginia where no one was going to be around us. We just all were together. We just hung out. We didn't talk soccer. We didn't talk about who was playing good and who was playing bad. We golfed. We hung out. 4 days later, we went back into training, refreshed, and we won the whole thing. But I think that's something that Portland needs. They need like a break from it all, to get away from it, to just remember how close they are as a unit, and then get refreshed, come back, get back into it, get after it. They got tons of players. They are another team. Who knows who they're going to throw out there? Their only thing with them is they have similar players that come in. If Moultrie plays, she plays for Sinclair. Sinclair and Moultrie are basically the same player in a sense, but they have the leading assist leader in the league. They have the Golden Boot winner in the league. They have great defenders. They have Weaver. Like they're not a bad team. They're just right now. They just look like a tired team, like a team
Yeah.
that spent it all, given everything they had, and it just didn't go their way.
Yeah, I mean, Portland has 2.5 weeks until they have to host either Angel City or OL Reign. So that gives them plenty of time to game plan. Like you said, I think I agree. Like a vacation would be really interesting to like see how that goes. And if a team in the NWSL has ever done that before, or just, I guess Portland has so many different
Yeah,
places you
a
can
lot
go
of
on
a lot of
vacation.
pro teams, they usually give like 4 days off, and everybody goes their separate way. I wouldn't do that
Right.
for this team. I would make sure we're all doing this together. Like I'm sure the
Yeah.
goalie cannot be happy. We got to talk to her and be like, listen, not the goalie. That's the Angel City goalie. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's just like certain players. Like there's just certain players that got to be like, look, Sarah Baum, you're back. But like, are you? There's a lot to try. Inspired, you were gone. Coffee became more of a leader. Is she still a leader? Is it Sarah Baum? Like, there's still some things to work out, and I would make sure everybody was together to do it, because I think this team is still like, I
Top
would still
tier.
have them high up there to be one of the teams that win it. They're not going to surprise anybody if they won the whole thing. So,
No.
I think that, but they just need to get on the same page. They seem disconnected. That's what they seem, very
I'm
disconnected.
glad you brought up the goal. Yeah, no, I agree from that Portland side. I'm glad you brought up the goalkeeper situation because Hadicic is a decent goalkeeper, and I throughout the season, like I've been talking to like other goalkeepers who call the league games, like Saskia Weber, Jill Lloyden. Like, what do you think of Hadicic? And they, they thought she's been good and everything, and I'm not a goalkeeper. Never was. But after calling so many games and watching so much film over the years, she's not top tier. Like there were a few saves this year that I think she easily could have made, but she didn't. And I think Coach Tweed took a huge gamble because Hadicic has been the starting goalkeeper since Angel City began. And it's that consistency, especially in net, that like this team kind of needs. It's like a six being consistent. If you take them out, it might change a few things. And I thought it was a bold move by Tweed to take out Hadicic and give Anderson that starting role the last few games. And it's paid off like tenfold. I think Hadicic just needs to step aside, see the game from, the sideline for a bit. I'm not saying she can't be a part of, maybe this team later, an expansion team going forward. But, right now, I don't think she's a starting goalkeeper. I think Anderson has proven herself. She's got great size, good hands. I think she's a good shot stopper. And, they got lucky. They didn't really need Anderson too much in this match. But I thought that was something you can't overlook when you look forward for this Angel City side. And just Tweed as a coach. Like she's going to make bold moves. And if it pays off, that's phenomenal. If it doesn't, it was a good decision because like you just can't keep Hadicic in goal. Like she
Yeah.
just was, Achilles heel to some extent for them this year.
I think Hadicic is a good goalie. I think she is one of in the league. She is not as athletically quick as some of the other
No.
goalies. So what happens is when she makes saves, they always look like they were spectacular. And we get tricked by it sometimes as the fan because oh my god, what a diving save, whereas like another goalie would just saved it because it was she gets surprised by how fast the game is sometimes. But even on that, it obviously has worked out. But sometimes I think goalkeeper's the one position that you could make a change in, and the goalie you put in is not the better goalie, but for whatever reason, the team either rallies around or for some reason plays better with. You can't always like switch your 6 or your 9 and be like, well, let's put in a weaker player. And the team all of a sudden does better. That usually doesn't work with field players. But goalies, I've been on a couple teams where we switched our goalie just because we had a bad run. And it wasn't like the goalie's fault or anything. We switched it just to get like a little shakeup. And then we start winning, and then we're superstitious as coaches. We're superstitious as players. And you're like, well, we can't take the goalie out now because we're on a 4-game winning streak. Goalie hasn't made one save, hasn't had anything to do with this winning streak in a sense. But that's the way the team is navigating through these changes. And I think their goalie switch was based on performance, would be my guess, because I think there are certain games when I've watched Angel City that I feel the goalies let them down on easy saves or just even when she's parried shots out for rebounds. And I don't think they don't look settled, the defensive line, when she's behind her. Like, if we don't stop it, this is probably a goal. This is probably a problem.
Hmm.
So I think that those were all the right decisions, but sometimes you can switch your goalie and just the effect it has on your team is just shockingly incredible because it has such an impact that you were not expecting it from the goalie position to change the dynamic of the team so much.
Totally. I mean, NFL starting right, or sorry, not starting, but playing right now. And you see like some teams are making changes with their quarterback and they're not having good seasons, but like they're trying different things throughout the year because they have to in order to like, they're either going to sink or they're going to like go for it, but they can't stay at that medium road right now. Maybe it's your Bears, but they're always going to kind of sink a little bit, but they
Listen, let me
just
tell you, I'm hoping they stink
man.
this year in Carolina because with us being as bad as we are and Carolina being as bad as they are, we're definitely getting the number one pick, and then we can pick a new quarterback.
Yeah, you know what? I hope that for you. I mean, as a Steelers fan, like, how are we number one in the division right now? Like, what happened to the AFC North? I need to know. But this Chicago or this Charlotte side, I live in Charlotte, and I never thought I'd see a day that the Panthers would absolutely get crushed by the Detroit Lions. I mean, 41 points.
I'll
What
tell you
in
what,
the world?
I'd rather watch a high school football game than watch the Panthers.
Man,
They're
me too.
horrible. They
I
are.
feel bad for Bryce Young. He has been put in a really tough position. Like it takes a
Agreed.
special somebody to come in and turn this thing around.
It's going to, yep. It is going to. But I going back to the Tweed. What I
Yeah.
like about Tweed and what players like about their coaches is when things aren't going the way they want, they're putting themselves like she put herself on the line with that change. She puts herself on the line when this happens. Or she changes like a superstar, or like, hey, LaRue hasn't really started many games. I'm gonna start her. Oh, blah blah blah. I'm gonna do this. I'm like that to me as a player is like they're invested, they're going for it. They're looking out not just for their best interests, but me as a player. Like we can win, we can do this. And then like when you watch her on the sidelines, when you watch the team, how they've been playing, they obviously have their personalities are obviously meshing and it's working. McCaskill's been she's a great player, but she's been way better since Tweed's gotten there. She looks like she understands her role. She understands where she fits in the team, not just on the field, but like in a leadership group, in a leadership role. And I think that's what Tweed's done is she's shown these players that like we are in this together. Like if I'm okay if I lose my job, you give me everything, I'll give you everything. Doesn't mean it's always going to be correct, but it's with the best intentions. And I think that's what you see from Angel City. And all of a sudden, this team that we've been saying all year is, man, if they ever click, they are dangerous. Now I'm going to make one joke just to see if we can get some people mad.
Wait, I
If
know what you're going to say.
If Angel City makes it to the finals, will they let Julie Ertz come out of retirement to get her last trophy? Come on, Ertz. You kidding me?
Dude, I knew exactly what you were gonna say, because if you didn't go there, I was gonna go there. This league had, hyped up Julie Ertz and Angel City getting
She's
Julie Ertz, blah,
back.
blah, blah. She's back. They don't need her. And
I
credit
love
to
it.
Amadine Henri and how she's come in and to help out that side in that role as well. Like, Julie Ertz, great career. I have nothing against her. You make your life decisions. That's great. But, I credit to Angel City and Becky Tweed. And, a lot of people say, or you'll read, like, players will be like, my coach did this and she's given us confidence. And sometimes it's a lot of BS, right? But I think with Angel City and listening to like Sarah Gordon being like, Tweed has given us so much confidence. It's not BS. You hear from every player every week since she's taken over. It's not BS. Like, she believes in what they're doing wholeheartedly, and a lot of credit to her. I hope we get her on this show in the off season because I want to dig deeper.
And also, I think Henri just shows man class. Like, she
Totally.
adapts the game that she's playing based on what it needs to be done to win. When she was with France, she attacked a little bit higher at times. Now she's kind of like just that. She's almost like an old school sweeper, but in the midfield, and she just organizes. And like she's almost plays off of McCaskill's runs so that they're not too many players on one side of the field. She like offsets McCaskill's runs. Watching her the last couple of games, she's so intelligent. And then it almost looks like, God, why does she move so slow and nobody can stop her? It's just because in a
She's
sense, like,
smart.
just so ahead of everybody else that it looks
Yeah.
like effortless. Like there's no effort being given. Like she's not trying, but it's because her brain works 7 plays ahead. Or the old saying is they're all playing checkers and she's playing chess. That's what it looks like on the field. And she is a big component too. Everybody having this freedom. And their 2 center backs also seem a little bit more at ease because they're not covering so much ground, covering for midfielders that are coming flying through because Ertz was too high or McCaskill didn't follow her run or somebody was in there playing that hasn't played very often. And it's that one last midfielder usually seemed to be like, who is it? Is it going to be Hammond? Is it going to be her? Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be? They were always switching that one, basically 8 midfielder, couldn't get who it was going to be. And I think Henri has solidified the midfield, but in solidifying has also given everybody like a clearer view of what their role is and how we go forward as a team.
Totally. I agree. And I think Tweed has done a good job of managing all of that and figuring out those pieces and slowly but surely like recognizing it's going to take a little bit of time. So we have OL Reign hosting Angel City Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And then Sunday, the Courage will host Gotham at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday to round out the quarterfinals in the NWSL. Before we wrap this up, Scotty, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Charlotte hosts Inter Miami on Saturday night. Do you think Messi is going to show up, play? Like, what can we expect out of that?
Are they putting grass in?
It's not. I was about to say it's turf. It is turf.
I don't even think Messi will show up, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll come. If he does come, I don't
Such a
think he'll go on
bummer.
that field. I mean, he's with Argentina right now. They're
True.
pretty much out of the playoffs, right? I think they're mathematically out. That last game put them out. If not, they're like they need a lot of help.
Right.
So I do not think so. I think because they're even already talking about is he going to go on loan to Barcelona in the whatchamacallit. They're already talking about Miami going to China. Like you cannot risk this guy getting hurt and not make any of these trips and not do things
Yeah.
because him going on loan is still making money for Inter Miami. It's still helping
Right.
Inter Miami. Them going on China will be the biggest trip these MLS kids have ever seen. They
Well,
won't be able to understand it because
why?
there's
Why would they go to Miami or why would they go to China? What is
so
wrong? Are they
Ronaldo's.
aware of what's happening in our world right now?
Oh, I think money rules the world, but that's what they'll do.
I
They'll
would
do
not
it.
hop on a plane to China. Would you?
No, no, I
No.
wouldn't.
Like never. You can kick me off the team if you want. I ain't going to China.
But yeah, so I don't think so. But one last thing I wanted to say about Angel City, which I think they're the only team maybe Gotham a little bit, but not as much as Angel City. Angel City's been playing in the playoffs for like a month and a half already. Like they have a whole different mentality than everybody else. San
Yeah.
Diego, Portland, even the Courage could not have thought they were going to be at that last day like they were. So like these teams knew they were in. They knew, or OL Reign, they knew. I think they had to think they were in. So like they've been going through games where Angel City's been do or die. Can't lose a game. If we tie, that puts us behind. Now we got to win the next game. Like their mentality for a month and a half to 2 months has been, man, you lose any more games, we ain't making the stupid playoffs. So
Mhm.
they've been in a playoff push, which is now just going to go into the next game of the playoffs. Like that's all they know. That's how they've been training. That's like they're in a whole different mindset than everybody else going into these playoffs. And I think that's part of what Portland's problem was. They had this thing wrapped up playoff wise for so long that they're
Yeah.
basically, let's not get hurt. Let's rest in trainings. We don't need this game. Let's mess here. Let's fool around here. Let's play this player. So that you understand that as a player where you're like, it's not that big of a game. And that's set up all week in trainings and how we've trained. Well, Angel City has been full blast for at least 2 months now, just trying to get their points back because they had such a tough run there for a while early. So that's a dangerous team, not just talent wise, but mentality wise.
I completely agree. I think this Angel City side, especially when they go to OL Reign, who has struggled a little bit. And I could see OL Reign wanting this really bad for Megan Rapinoe. And I think that's what we saw against Chicago is not only do they want for themselves, obviously, but even Rapinoe putting in that extra umph, knowing it could be her final game. That matchup's going to be really difficult and really tricky to get a win. But I think Angel City has that one. And then North Carolina and Gotham, I predict the Courage taking this one personally. I just don't think Gotham has those pieces. I don't think Lynn Williams has been what we expect her to be. I think Midge Purse has been fine. Esther Gonzalez has been a good lift for the first few weeks for Gotham, but tying 2-2 against Kansas City and letting Kansas City back in this game is just not a great sign for me if I'm a Gotham fan, if I'm a Gotham player. And Courage always kind of find a way, Scotty. Like, right? I just think we've seen that all year is the Courage always find a way to get it done. And it might not be the prettiest. And I'm not saying I'm a Courage fan per se. I just think they'll figure it out to make it to the semis.
I'm going to take Gotham.
You are.
Yeah, I think Courage is the better team, a better soccer team. If I was a player, I'd want to play for the Courage. But Gotham has exactly what hurts the Courage. They have tricky, fast, high up top players.
That's
And
fair.
that they struggle with those type of players. They have Gonzalez. They also have the girl, why I can never remember her name. That was
Oh
in
my gosh, Yasmin Ryan.
yeah,
I know.
like that is the player
Yeah,
that the Courage fear. They
I know.
fear players that are slick and quick and fast. And listen, Lynn Williams was here and she was their star. So she still is going to have that big sister feeling over Kurtz. She's going to have that. Like, I think Kurtz is going to play extra hard to prove that it wasn't Williams that had won all those championships. And I think she's going to get into some dirty tackle, not dirty, but like real good challenges that she's going to get a yellow card early. She's going to have to slow it down. I just think what Gotham has, and I don't pick Gotham going far after that game. I don't think that they're the
No.
best team. I just think where they have their key pieces that is the pieces that always hurt. That's what hurts Carolina. That if you have quick forwards who attack at players and run at players, that their back line does not like that, especially when they're attacking with their outside backs. If they lose the ball somewhere and can get countered on, it's going to be a problem.
But I also think this Gotham side, and that's fair, but I also think this Gotham side doesn't have a solid back line, like similar to the Courage. And I think there's players like the new Japanese players, if Caroline plays, I think O'Sullivan's always a threat. I think this is going to be the better game of the two in the sense that we see like more of a battle. But I think there's a lot of similarities on the back lines where I could see whichever attack can take advantage of the back lines will probably end up winning this one.
And I think that's the key to it because that's what I was saying earlier about North Carolina. You don't fear that they're going to whoop you 5-0. They haven't been putting balls in the back of the net. So even if they score, you have Lynn Williams, you have Gonzalez, you have the girl that was at
Yasmin
Portland,
Ryan.
Brian. Like we can get 2 goals easy. We can get 2 goals easy with those 3. Just with those 3 alone, we have the players. Now, again, playoffs are different. Does Krieger turn it up? Does Long turn it up? Does Zambroni? Like the other thing is you have a lot of ex-Courage players have gone through here and might be wanting to prove, hey, I was the reason I put that team on the map when we first got there. So like they do have some veteran leadership in Gotham, and can they get geared up for 90 minutes and organize? And because at one time Krieger was the best in the back. Now she's aged, her game is starting to pass her by, and she understands that she's retiring. But like, are they going to do the same as for Rapinoe? Let's get it. Let's push this. Let's do this for Krieger. I just think that I think they have the things that are more dangerous to the other team than the Courage playing the way they play to Gotham. If the Courage
We'll
knock the
see.
ball around with no purpose to get forward, it'll allow that back line to slide
Oh,
and
yeah.
to get where it is. So like there's going to have
Yeah.
to be more purpose to they're going to have to be looking for goals, and they don't
Right.
always look for goals, in my opinion, the Courage.
That's fair. And I think of late too, you take out this Washington win, they haven't had wins since that Challenge Cup win when they won the entire thing. So it'll be really interesting. This NWSL match, it always keeps you on your toes. That's why we're here to cover it all. That is our recap of the decision day. A lot of great goals, 17 of them. Make sure to stay with us. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, we're on TikTok, and we're on YouTube. You can watch us every week at SFTP Pod. Next week, we will see. I personally have a family thing that I have to take care of, so I'm not sure what next week will look like. But the week after that, previewing the semifinals, we will definitely be back here for all of that. MLS is starting to wrap up their regular season. There's a lot to talk about across the landscape of the state soccer. So make sure to follow us everywhere on social, and we will see you back here, if not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after that.
Have a great week.